raging fire, several centuries-old buildings in danger, and firefighters fight desperately to save them. But did low water pressure slow them down?
Now, News 2 at 6, the station you can count on.
You are looking live at a picture of Front Street in Georgetown, where a massive fire has destroyed 7 buildings in the historic district. My co-anchor Brendan Clark is reporting from the field tonight with the latest on the fire. Brendan, give us an idea of how things look right now. I just heard that Governor Haley is planning to be in Georgetown tomorrow.
Yeah, she is planning to take a tour around 9:30 tomorrow morning, as we are told, and then she will talk to the media at 10 o'clock at what she thinks of this damage behind me. And it certainly is devastating. We have used that word throughout our coverage of this fire. It's devastating to so many businesses, so many people who work at those businesses, also people who lived above those buildings. 7 buildings total destroyed, other buildings around there also damaged with smoke and water damage, including the South Carolina Maritime Museum. The call came in about 5:23 this morning, the first call. Over 100 firefighters, 9 departments came in to battle the blaze, which was not contained until hours later. We're told the fire likely started in one of the restaurants in one of those buildings, but an exact location and cause has not been determined yet. The fire spread quickly through the block, and 7 historic buildings are gone. Firefighters were able to finally get control, but not before 7 buildings were destroyed. And as I said, 9 different fire departments called in to help with this fire. Even the Coast Guard came in. And just to give you an idea, the river runs right behind these buildings on Front Street. So the Coast Guard came up from behind these buildings to start spraying out water because it was so large. I mean, it just engulfed the buildings were. Luckily, there were no injuries. Everyone's accounted for, but the cause of this blaze is still under investigation.
It's just too dangerous to put people in those buildings to do the final investigation. It could be days before we find out anything here. But what we are going to do this afternoon, having a structural engineer here to look at the buildings and see what buildings we can go into.
Again, authorities did speculate that this fire did begin in one of the restaurants that was in one of those 7 buildings and spread from there. The fire chief of Georgetown even said he heard an explosion early on into the fire, and that collapsed a lot of walls, and that helped the fire spread to the other buildings as well. Just a sense of loss for everyone who enjoys this area. Certainly it's the historic area. People coming around all day just wondering how this could happen, but they say they will rebuild and life will go on, certainly here in the historic district of Georgetown. There have been concerns, though, when fighting this fire about water pressure issues. While firefighters did battle this blaze for hours, we want to continue our team coverage with News 2's Larry Collins, who has more. Larry.
Yeah, Brendan, you know, this really has become a story about the numbers. We're coming up on 12 hours that firefighters have dumped water on the site of this fire. 9 companies from across the state, over 100 firefighters. Now, with all that water being used, there did make a few water pressure issues. So we wanted to check into those issues. But while we were checking to get those answers, we found a few other things that the city is going to need to take care of.
It started out as a little smoke, and then after a while, they realized that it was serious.
Oh my goodness, it was totally engulfed in flames. The fire was really, really hot, smoke everywhere.
A long day of fighting flames. No shortage of firefighters, but water pressure certainly took a hit.
At one point, we had probably every tanker truck in Georgetown County out here pouring water on the fire, and the systems just was overwhelmed a little bit.
Complicating issues, the tanks were draining water pressure during the busiest time for the city, during morning showers.
So you couple a large fire with our peak demand period, it put a great strain on our system to be able to supply water.
How close is the city to getting the water pressure issues fixed?
You mean as of right this minute? They're fixed right now.
But you said there were structural issues or problems that you guys have been battling for a while. How close are you to getting those fixed?
Well, one of the things, we just approved the funding the other night in City Council to build a state-of-the-art fire tank in Maryville. It's going to cost over $1 million, so that'll help the whole system, because it's all interconnected throughout the city. And then we're looking at building another one on the northern part of town.
The city was able to shut off some water to another part of town and have that area draw from wells, keeping positive water pressure on the fire scene.
We were able to feed as much water as we could
into our system. It's just a fire of this size, coupled with the demands in the morning, is something we just cannot force through our pipes fast enough.
And how do you change that? What needs to be done?
Well, we have a capital improvement program, and we look at the pipe sizes and our oldest pipes that need to be replaced, and it's just part of that program. Year after year, you replace pipes.
While water pressure proved to work on the front of the buildings, battling the blaze from the waterfront side was problematic as they tried to use their fireboat.
Unfortunately, the boat is more designed for boat fires and not large structural fires like this, so it just wasn't capable of putting as much water as we would have liked.
And fire hydrants behind the buildings may have made a difference.
It came up several years ago to whether or not we should put in major hydrants along the back of these buildings with a 6 or 8 inch water pipe there, and that was going to be very expensive. And the city council at that time decided that economically it wasn't feasible.
Should council reconsider those back hydrants?
Well, it's something I think we need to do that, or get a real serious fireboat. Whatever's the cheaper way to go.
Plans for the future, but as for the question of the day, do you think that the water pressure issues hindered them at all today?
No, I think there were some points where the pressure dropped a little bit, but we shut down other areas of the city.
Now, as for those water pressure issues, they say this is a problem that almost every city in this country of almost any size would have had. You can't have that many buildings on fire with that many engines pumping that much water and not expect for water pressure to fall. They say they followed protocol, and by doing that, they were able to save half the block. In Georgetown, I'm Larry Collins, News 2.
Okay, thank you, Larry Collins. This isn't the first time this area has had a major fire affect many businesses. We want to get News 2's Raymond Owens in here right now to talk about that. This is a 700 block that's been devastated right now, but you're saying there was another problem in the 600 block some time ago.
Exactly. Back, if you see right behind us, this section is the 700 block. On the other side of this clock tower behind us is the 700 block. I spoke with Debbie Summey. She's writes a history column each week for the Georgetown Times and also guides tours down here. And she told me more about why this area, Front Street, has been the heartbeat of Georgetown since its inception.
It has always been our main business district because it is right on the river.
This is not the first time a large portion of Front Street was destroyed by fire. Back in 1841, the old clock tower had to be torn down to prevent a fire on the 600 block from spreading over to the 700 block, the block that was destroyed today. Debbie says Front Street will continue to be the focus of the town, just like after the fire of 1841.
Once again, a total disaster, but the folks rallied round and rebuilt on that site, and that's what we're hoping that the businesses who were affected today will be able to do.
The South Carolina Maritime Museum is right behind me here in the 700 block. Some people were wondering, since it was in the block that was affected by the fires, would they go on with the wooden boat show here in Georgetown on October 19th? They are going to do that. They're trying to basically get back to business as usual as fast as they can.
Yeah, that's easier said than done, but at least they're going to try. Also, I know a half marathon will also still be run here. So folks in Georgetown, of course, devastated by the loss, but continuing to go on and do things that they normally would do. Of course, we'll have much more coming up on the Georgetown Fire here in the Historic District. You can also follow it on our website, countont2.com. Feel free to join the conversation. Also on our Facebook page, just search WCVD. Much more coming up a little later in the show. For now, though, send it back to Charleston and Mount Pleasant and Carolyn.